Folks, it's Thursday night. It is Friday Eve. Hope you've had a good week so far, folks. We're going to talk a few things going on right now with me. And oops, I have not turned my little enable my point. Yeah, just a few little things related to labbing, etc. Nothing major today, folks. Going to be brief. This is same wallpaper of the day. I haven't had a chance to change it. This, of course, is a time lapse of Jupiter. I think from a northern point of view, but basically what's going on today is I got a new computer today. Well, I got a new work computer today. I work from home, and I got a new work computer, so I've been working on transferring things over. I got cables all over the place. I'm going to try to get that taken care of tonight, ready for work tomorrow. But anyway, a couple of cool things about that I'm going to talk about in a minute. First of all, something came up in Discord regarding OS X, High Sierra, and telnet. And if any of you run OS X, if you lab in OS X, you know, I run, all my stuff is below, right, all my lab configuration. But in general, what I do is I run OS X, I run VMware Fusion, and I run things as VMs on my Mac, and I have an iMac, so it's a desktop. It's an all-in-one basically inside the screen, and it's limited in terms of RAM, things like that. But I can load a basic INE lab on this thing, and it's fine. It does what I need to do. This is also my streaming PC, but I had held off for a long time installing High Sierra because Apple decided to remove telnet, so it's not there at all. And sure enough, I went the other day and I tried to launch telnet after doing the High Sierra upgrade, and it didn't work. It's okay. I don't really need it right now. There is a way to get it. There's a couple ways to get it, and I'm going to go over that because I know some folks out there are using it. And a couple things you need to keep in mind is, one is I thought was really cool. I thought this was the answer to all my problems, is brew. I didn't even think about this. Why can't you, and someone mentioned it in Discord today. I really appreciate that. But if you go to terminal, brew, basically, you may or may not be familiar. It's kind of like apt. It is a package manager for the Mac. So you can do brew install, on Ubuntu, whatever you want to say. For example, you do apt install, right? If you're like me and you run Fedora or Red Hat or something like that, I ran Fedora for years, it would be yum install, in the name of the package. Well, you can install, in High Sierra, you can install telnet. You just do brew install telnet, which I did earlier, and I was so glad to find that it actually worked. And it installed telnet, which is great. You can see it doing a bunch of stuff here. Ruby, brew, auto-updated homebrew. Telnet 54.50.1 is already installed and up to date. So we can actually run telnet here. I don't know what to run it against. This probably won't work. Yeah. Anyway, and the whole reason this came up is someone in Discord was trying to get it to work in Eve, NG. And they could not. So for example, I have Eve open here. I have a basic lab. And this is the native console. And you can just click here, right? And what it'll do is say open in terminal. Always open these types of, and then you say open terminal. And the terminal will open, but for some reason, even using brew to install telnet, it doesn't work. It says could not create a process. So in the Eve NG documentation, which is really good, by the way, the cookbook, if you all have not, if you're using Eve, any problem you have, definitely check out the cookbook. I'm going to load it up here in a second and show you what it says about this particular issue. So it does have a section on, in fact, to jump right to it, right? Mac OS X native console telnet protocol. OS X Sierra and older releases is ready to use for telnet protocol. For High Sierra, a telnet binary must be added. Apple decided to remove it and is not present anywhere in the latest OS X releases. Now what they have is they have a way that you can actually the Eve server, your EVE-NG installation, has the files you need. There's one caveat though. Here's the commands. So it's a little involved. You should be able to get this to work if you have to have it. Again, the reason I'm not using it is because I'm now, and pretty much have always, used the HTML5 console. And that works great for me. Like, it puts it in a browser window. You know, it connects to Guacamole, and there you go. So, again, I think there is a way to connect to telnet even if you're doing the HTML5 console, but it probably means that you have to have this stuff, right? So, here's the caveat with this E version of telnet. You reboot the Mac, hold down Command plus R keys simultaneously, Command plus R keys simultaneously after you hear the startup chime. This will boot OS X into recovery mode. When OS X utility screen appears, pull down utilities menu at the top of the screen, choose terminal, and then type the following command into the terminal and then hit enter. Now what this effectively does is it bypasses safe checking. How is it worded here? Let's see, GNS, yeah. This is just one of our channels, folks. We had this discussion yesterday. You have to disable integrity protection. And they did not want to do that. So yeah, I've not tried this way. Like I said, I don't really need it myself. There's a photo here, isn't there? I don't know if we can see that. So, you know, it's a little involved. It may work for you. If you really want to do this, I would encourage you to try to follow these instructions. It does enable integrity check. Show, how's it going, man? You know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you? Show, who is also a streamer, folks, he actually brought this up. People still use Mac OS. Yeah, they still do, man. Although, I will say, our Rittenhouse, this new computer I received today, it is a work PC. It's replacing my old PC. And I need it because I need it to be able to run Bash in Windows. And Windows 10 has what's called, I'll get into it in a minute, the Linux subsystem. That is pretty cool, my friend. What I've always liked about OS X is the fact that you can run BSD, Bash shell, and BSD at any time, right? And his mentor says, yeah, definitely not a great security suggestion. Turn off integrity checking. Exactly. Although, I didn't see that in here, guys. Did you? In the instructions, is one of these commands, is that what it's doing? Because it doesn't really tell you that in the cookbook. It says, reboot the Mac, hold down R. When the OS X utility screen appears, pull down the utilities menu and choose terminal. CRUtil disable. Oh, is that what that is? CRUtil disable? Sudo ice, copy telnet, chown, yeah, it changes ownership. So is this command turning off? Because otherwise I don't see it saying, by the way, you have to turn off integrity checking. Mac OS X CRUtil. Okay, here's an article, How to Geek. How to disable. Warning, don't do this unless you have a very good reason to do so. Know exactly what you're doing. The system integrity protection setting isn't stored in Mac OS. Instead, it's stored in NVRAM on each individual Mac. Okay, CSR util. Okay. Is that what this says? Oh, look at this, guys. This is actually... This says CSR util. This says CR util. Is that just a typo? Yeah, that's kind of a pain. So let me see if I can run that. I would think just put a symbolic link to the right binary after you have it installed with brew. Probably, right? Our Rittenhouse, because telnet is installed here. But now that I have it installed via brew, this doesn't know where it is. So there's probably an easier fix than disabling CSR util status. Modify system integrity protection configuration. So either disable, enable status. Yeah, that's kind of a pain, isn't it? Well, so we can't really blame E for this. I'm sure this is really the case for probably any utility that would use telnet, right? Yeah, that probably would work, but yeah, I would definitely not want to turn that off, because you know, I'm thinking, what is the equivalent in Windows? For example, in Windows, that might be like disabling. There's a user. There's another similar configuration in a Windows OS. I forget what it's called, but yeah, you don't want to disable that. So I can understand. I can definitely understand why they didn't want to do that. But now at least there's a typo here, by the way. Even if someone does want to do it, it's CSR util disable. So we may want to mention that, but this is messy. This is really messy. So my question is, why would someone need to use telnet? And does this allow SSH? Like, can you specify a different? In even G, can you specify a different can you specify SSH? Can you specify something other than terminal? Native console, cloning objects. Because I know with previous, like with viral allows you to select what is going to be your session manager. Is it going to be iTerm2? Is it going to be telnet? You can actually specify the program you're going to want that you want to use, and that's helpful for a lot of people. You know, I did that too, because with viral by default it would select terminal, and I wanted to use iTerm2 on the Mac. So I could just tell it, use this instead. Same with GNS3. Let me see, iTerm. Yeah, it doesn't have anything like that. So that would probably be a good suggestion for improvement. Windows Smart Screen would be the equivalent, yet not sure with Mac OS as well. Yeah, the Windows Smart Screen, I think, is the browser, like Internet Explorer. And our right now says data execution prevention. That's what I'm talking about. Well, data execution prevention. Yeah, not sure that's equivalent to Windows, something like that. I think no matter which software you use, it will always need to be telnet. Yeah, probably so. If you are using, yeah, it's probably true, show. So whether it is, whether you're running Mac OS 10, whether you're running Ubuntu, whether you're running Windows, a lot of these lab software applications, in order to auto connect, you're using telnet. So I honestly don't know how to get around that really, except to to not use telnet and use the HTML5 console or the native console. The native console is like a total sandbox, and everything runs inside of the virtual machine. So that's probably the way to do that. Because you something telnetting to the routers, you're telnetting to the Eve and G host, which is binding a telnet port to the router's console port, right? Simulated. And it's kind of how Viral works too, from what I've seen, and GNS3. So yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky, and like I said, that was the biggest reason why I avoided for the longest time upgrading to High Sierra. And the only reason I did it is because I started to have other issues with other, like some of my, in the App Store, some of my applications were updating, and then I was having issues sometimes with those applications. I was thinking, okay, I've held off for High Sierra for months. Let me just go ahead and bite the bullet. His workaround was the HTML conf, so yeah, that's pretty much your workaround for right now. Okay, so I was talking about, speaking of operating systems, this does kind of tie together. The new laptop I'm putting together is Windows 10, and the reason I needed a new laptop for work is since I'm working on it with cloud engineering, one very critical thing is, you know, I run with cloud engineering, you get involved with Linux. Linux is a skill that is very helpful to have when working in a cloud environment, right? Because oftentimes you are going to be deploying systems, automating deployments of systems, and those could be Windows or Linux machines. They could be appliances. They could be cloud native objects or PaaS, you know, applications. But Linux is very helpful for a number of reasons. One is there's a lot you can do in Azure, for example, and in the cloud, in other providers, using Bash shell. So there's integration between a local Bash shell and different commands that you can execute against, you know, a resource group in Azure, for example. And it's very handy to be able to do that. You have, for example, in Azure and Google, you have portals, web-based portals, that you can log into and click, and you know, but that's slow and often, and there's some things for Azure, for example, there's some things that you can only really do via editing, via some sort of deployment with the JSON template, or drop into the CLI, which is PowerShell or Bash. I did not get an i9. I wish I did. It is an SSD. I don't know the size of the SSD. It is i7. It's not huge. You know, it's about the equivalent of this Mac. Although this Mac I think is an i5, so it's actually got better specs than this Mac. But it has Windows 10, and I'm going to be able to run a Linux subsystem, and we're running a Bash shell, which I need. I'm also going to be able to run Docker, because I was actually unable to run Docker on the Windows 7 machine that I had, and I need Docker. Like, we're going to be doing things related to Docker. It's actually going to be somewhat part of my job. So I had to have an upgrade on this new team. They made it happen pretty quick. I mean, the device hit our desktop team like yesterday, and that same day they did some basic configuration, shipped it out. I got it delivered to my door around noon and started working on it. So running Docker on Windows or under the Linux subsystem. This would be Docker on Windows. Yeah, or I might do both, to be honest. But yeah, so that's what I'm going to be playing with tonight. I did work yesterday, going back to sort of CCIE stuff. I did go over some network lessons, and I did get through some more spanning tree, worked on some cool stuff. I think I'm done with 802.1d spanning tree. Now I'm going to be getting into RSTP, and this, yeah, I'm going to hopefully get some of that done tonight. I don't know if I'll be able to, just because I'll be working on this This green screen helps. It covers up a lot, but there's a mess behind this green screen. So uh, I've got like these laptops stacked on each other with different docking stations and different sets of cables. And I'm trying to copy, like I have, RSA tokens got to be copied over. I mean, it's just a lot to do. But I did get some time last night after the stream to work on networklessons.com. Got through 802.1d spanning tree. And tomorrow night, of course, I'm not streaming. That's my night off. But Saturday and Sunday, we got three-day weekend coming up, folks, which is awesome. So you know what? You could take like a whole day to party or to hang out with the fam or to do whatever. And you still have 2 days to like hit the books, which is good. We all have that lab room. I know I do. Yeah. So, and my wife only tolerates so much. Like, there's certain things that she has to get to in here in the closet. And so, anyway, y'all know how that is, right? It's funny. My wife, it was an architect in her home country, and she's now doing more architecture-related work here. But she's all about the aesthetics and simplicity. And she does not like my cables. Like, I have to keep my cable management under control or I get in trouble. I have to hide best I can, or she'll come in here and she's like, oh, these cables. What are you going to do about those cables? Yes, my wife is allowed in the lab room, or my wife allows me to use this lab room. We got to stand our ground and reclaim our rooms. I was in the garage for years. That's right. Outside, right? You were banned from the household and stuck in a garage. I was like that too when I initially started working on my CCNA. I had physical gear, and it was loud, and the fans, especially that layer 3 switch I had. Dude, the fan on that thing ran continuously, so it would heat up the room, use power. So I was banned into, and I set up in like a storage. I had a covered screened-in patio outdoors, and then I had a storage room in there, and I ended up setting up some of that stuff in there. I have a 42U rack in our bedroom. You should post a picture of that, our Rittenhouse. People have been posting their pimp labs, pimp my lab. People have been posting that in Discord. Happy wife is a happy home. So I've learned and stay quiet. See, mentors and I are wise men. We've been on the earth longer than a lot of you youngins. So we know the deal, I've been married more than once, so we know the deal. They keep you in check, and I know we need it. That's right. So long live virtualization. Yes, show. Keep putting videos of how to get stuff in the cloud, because that solves the family space issue, doesn't it? At least. So that's good. But anyway, yeah, I'm working on that, and I'm going to do some more work on that tomorrow night and Saturday. I'm going to keep getting through. I want to get through spanning tree. I want to get through layer 2 on networklessons.com. Hopefully this weekend, although I will say, folks, in networklessons.com, I'm going to tell you where I'm about to hit. And this is one of my weak areas. You must be a woman who created the cloud technologies. Women were tired across the world of people junking up their house with all kinds of loud, overheated crap. So they invented the cloud. There we go. Now we know the origins of cloud. But I'm going to show you guys what I'm going to work. So layer 2 is pretty big in this course, and I've been going through it. But as you see here, this was my weak area right here, layer 2 multicast. So I have to say, yeah, IGMP version 1, 2, 3, snooping without IGMP filter. Guys, I got beat up bad on this in the written exam. I just know it. In both written exams. And I feel like I understand spanning tree pretty well, But when I look at my layer 2 score, and let me go back to that because I want to see how much I vary between attempt 1 and 2 on layer 2. Yeah, look at that. First, actually, I had more multicast on the first attempt, but that is too low, folks. 50 and a 58, and I'm telling you, it's IGMP. So I'm looking forward to these lessons, and going through, and I may even lab some of this stuff. We've got PCAPs, so I'm looking forward to going through this section. You can leave comments below if you disagree with my statements. Thanks, lol. But yeah, speaking of that, so that's my goals, you know, hashtag goals, hashtag certification goals. Let's hit it, folks. Use the 3-day weekend to get in as much time as you can. That's what I'm going to try to do. Let's go ahead and go to the quiz. The quiz I brought up yesterday for trivia was spanning tree protocol timers. So how many of these did you know in your head? Hello, timer. Let's lab all week, peeps. I'm game. Let's do it, man. I won't be doing a lot of that. I would do reading, but I may do some labbing, but studying, yes, absolutely. Okay, our Rittenhouse says 0. The hello timer is actually 2 seconds. That's your BP to use, right? Maybe I called it the wrong name. Let me find a reference on this. But this is a BPDU timer. So I may be confusing folks by saying hello. No, it's called hello. Yeah. The hello time is the time between each BPDU that is sent on a port. Time is equal to 2 seconds by default. You can tune it to be between 1 and 10. So that's your BPDU sent every 2 seconds. Forward delay, 15 seconds. And then max age, this is the max age of your BPDU. So something I actually learned yesterday is, by the way, this is 20 seconds, right? The max age is 20 seconds. So these are the really important timers, right? This is 15, and this is 20. What I did not realize yesterday is that this will actually vary by switch. So let's do a draw IO real quick. So if we do network, let's just do this. So if you have root bridge, switch 1 is root, switch 2, switch 3, switch 4, and switch 5. I did not realize this yesterday. I learned this. Interesting. Max age varies by switch. That I did not know. So the way max age works, and this is, I alluded to this a little bit yesterday, but what happens is when this BPDU is sent to switch 2, the max age is set to 20. Now when switch 2 forwards a BPDU to switch 4, it actually decrements that max age to 19, and so on and so forth. And the idea here is that your spanning tree radius should never really go beyond 20 switches. So I was like, okay, cool. And I actually saw this on networklessons.com. I saw you know, PCAPs to sort of validate that. But yeah, so, and as a matter of fact, if you read up on these timers and how they're built, there are dependencies, because what happens is, for example, when you think about the forward delay, they're actually mechanisms, they are spaced apart so that when there's a topology change, for example, there's enough time for everyone to age out there. That's a different aging time, by the way. We're going to talk about MAC address. So these timers are dependent upon your radius. Obviously, you could not have an unlimited radius from the root bridge. Let's say you had 100 switches down. Well, a hello of 2 seconds and a max age of 20 seconds, that would not work, right? And that is what all the math is based on, is basically a max age of 2. So it's pretty interesting how that works. So MAC address aging time. And what this is referring to is when the switch learns, when it sees a frame come in on a port and it sees the source MAC address, that's how it learns, right? The MAC address. So it creates a MAC address table, and that port and that MAC address are added to the table. How long does that last? Same as voltage drop running outside lightning or outside lightning. Yes. So right, you have to set limits, and then you have to calculate your formulas based on that max limit. And you see that a lot when you talk about a lot in computers and in electronics and a lot of different scientific principles, right? When they tell you the recommended configuration, for heat in a PC, it's based on, what could the maximum heat get to, and how does it affect everything else in the system, right? I think you all know what I'm talking about, but basically, go back to MAC address aging time. So the way this works typically on Cisco switches is 300 seconds, which is basically 5 minutes. And that is inactivity. Well, actually, that's each time a MAC address is learned. So let's say gigabit port 00, I see this MAC address, a frame come into that port, and it has the source address of 0000000A. Well, a timer starts, and for that port and that MAC address, that table entry, and that timer is 300 seconds. Now, if in 250 seconds later, another frame is received on that port with the same MAC address, then it just resets the timer from 50 seconds to now 300 seconds. But if after 5 minutes there's no activity on that port, then that will time out. And as a matter of fact, I think we can see this here. Well, we probably haven't learned any frames. Yeah, I don't have any other switches up, so. But anyway, that's how that works. Now, obviously, when there is convergence in your spanning tree topology, and there's been a change, we need to flush out our MAC address table, because now the root bridge might be different, our root port might be different, and now we're going to have frames coming in on ports, different ports than what they were before. So we need to speed up. 300 seconds is just way too long. We're going to have black hole condition, right? So this occurs, of course, when there is a topology change. And the topology change is a special BPDU. It's just the same BPDU from the root with the topology change flag turned on, except from 0 to 1. So when that goes out, this uses a different timer. Do you know what that is? This is going to be the same as I'm going to have to double check this and make sure I get this right. But I believe this is the same as the forward delay value, which is 15 seconds. I'm going to double check that now on the drill sheet to make sure I'm not lying to you. All this stuff, basically when I come up with these little quizzes, I'm just looking at somewhere in the drill sheet. All right, this is fine, max. $215, 20, age of time 300. Okay, yeah, I got it right. A topology change, when there is a topology change BPDU received, this timer changes from 300 seconds to the same as a forward delay value, which is 15 seconds. Now, how long does the root bridge send BPDUs with the topology change flag enabled? In other words, how long are the TC BPDUs sent? Well, that is the forward delay plus the max age, so 35 seconds. Let me see if I got that right. Yeah. As we can see, it's different for RSTP, right? We'll get into that at some point, but this is 802.1d spanning tree. And that's your answer. That's quiz answer. How'd you do? All right, I have the next. Mentor says, similar as EIGRP known via EIGRP1, distance 90 metric type internal, somewhat correct? Yes or no? So you're talking about when you do a show IP route. And then it said, or show IP route EIGRP, and then it shows you, here's the prefix. This is known via EIGRP1, distance 90, metric, type internal. Yeah, I'm not sure what you're getting at there, mentors, how that relates to spanning tree. I will say that as I've studied spanning tree more, I've seen a lot how it does. When you look at a routing protocol and you look at spanning tree protocol, they're actually doing a lot of the same things, right? Like determining best path and doing loop avoidance, loop prevention mechanisms using metrics. So we almost saw sort of a little metric here. There are a lot of similarities between spanning tree protocol and OSPF, for example, or actually EIGRP, like a distance vector, or RIP. So yeah, there are a lot of similarities when you break it down to these hello, we have timers, we have hello timers, we age our information out. Yeah, there are a lot of similarities between spanning tree protocols. So in these last few days, I've tried to think of it somewhat as a routing protocol, just routing frames, not packets, right? And that has helped me a little bit. All right, I didn't write it down here, but there's another spanning tree next trivia quiz. And this has to do with spanning tree protocol, and it's pretty interesting. Let me find it here. Bear with me 1 second. I have it in my notes. Shoot, I cannot remember it now. It's just on the tip of my tongue. All right, anyway, I will have another trivia question for you at the next. I could have swore I wrote something down here, but I think I put it in, I've kind of changed my routine. So now I'm doing, I bet you I know what it was. Let me look at the Git repository. Did I already commit one for today? I did not. Okay. Oh, you're very welcome for the GitHub link. I'll get this. Man, there's something really cool. I wrote a note about it, about spanning tree, that I didn't know before, and I thought, okay, this would be good to share, but I'll get that to you. I got two meat chunks, folks. One, this is also the GitHub repo that I mentioned before. And this was a really cool episode of the, it's been out for a few days, but this is my first chance to see it. The history behind the CCIE program. And one takeaway for me, well, there are a number of them. Well, one takeaway for me is the idea, and this is, of course, just kind of conjecture, but the idea that the CCIE program came about because TAC wanted a way to know, TAC wanted a better way of knowing how to escalate things. So they were getting, when Cisco was first putting out routers and they had customer support, TAC as we know it today, there really was no way for someone to just say right off the bat, hey, look, I've already taken care of rebooting this or checking the code. I know it's not this set of very basic, simple things. Well, TAC wanted a way of someone to say, look, I'm a CCIE. Can you escalate this right away to a level 3 engineer, or whatever the case may be? They used to have this. After they came out with the CCIE program, you got automatic escalation of requests, and it really helped out TAC. Because in the beginning, it was actually TAC, a lot of the TAC engineers were instrumental in writing the CCIE program. And a lot of the CCIE, the 2-day labs, was troubleshooting. So what they would do is they would, on day one, you kind of set up your lab, you'd actually physically rack things. This is going back to some of the beginning, right? And what would happen is at night, some of the proctors would come in and like break some of your stuff. They'd swap out a cable with the cable that had the pinouts wrong and things like that. And then you come back in the next day and that was your troubleshooting, is you had to fix it, right? Now they do troubleshooting differently. Yes, TAC definitely appreciated the cert. So it was kind of in their interest. And really, when you think about it, you always have to remind yourself that Cisco, a lot of the things that they do, yes, they do want to encourage career growth. They do want to encourage personal development. They do want people to learn more about networking technologies and networking protocols. But at the end of the day, it's to Cisco's advantage that you get certified in their program for a number of reasons. And back then, the idea was, this is going to really help out TAC because these people will be better educated on how to fix their own stuff before they call us. And if they do call us and let us know they're a CCIE, well, that just lets us know we don't have to ask them a whole bunch of stuff. We can just go ahead and escalate the ticket because, Now, I'm not going to go over the whole episode. There's a lot of good stuff in there. They talk about how that evolved. Today, if you call and you're a CCIE, they don't really care. They still want you to have your show tech support. They want you to have output files. There is no escalation just because you're a CCIE. And there's a reason that changed. Definitely check out the episode to see. And there was a lot of discussion towards the end. I'm about 80% through it. I'm on the part right now where they're talking about the CCIE written. And the good thing is a couple of people, I know Jordan, I talked to Jordan about this after I failed my first CCIE. Jordan Martin from Network Collective. We actually sat down and, I got to know him and we talked about it. And we shared some sentiments on the sort of nature of what we perceive as sort of trivia with the exam. And I'm glad that he expressed that. He is mentioning this. I have it over here. I'm putting my hand on my other screen because I actually have it up over here. I was watching it before this stream, but I'm glad to see that. Russ also mentions sort of the trivia aspect as a criticism. And I'm real curious to see how the other folks respond. Bruce Penske and Terry Slattery, who are very involved with the program. They're still writing like questions for the written exam to this day. So I'm glad they're hearing this. I'm curious to see what they say about it. Definitely check it out. It's a good episode. That's all I got, folks. Thanks so much for hanging out. Man, I can't believe time goes so by fast here on the stream. Chatting with you folks. I thought this was going to be like a 10-minute stream, but that happens just about every night. There's so much cool stuff to talk about, and it's great interacting with the community. That's going to wrap it up for tonight, though, folks. I wish you the best on your own tracks. Let's hit it, man. Let's hit it, folks. Let's hit it hard. I'm going to send you the good bits. You're going to need those, so I'm sending you those your way, and hope y'all have a good night, a great weekend. Take good advantage of it, and we shall see you back here on Saturday. Don't know the time, but I'll post it in the Discord. And we'll see you back here real soon in the Land Tamer stream.